So welcome everyone to the Hog Island Audubon Camp live Q&A for our adult camps, which include all of the adult sessions plus the family camp sessions. Tonight we're going to do a short presentation and then we'll open it up to a larger Q&A. But first I'll just introduce myself. I'm Eva Lark. I'm the Senior Manager of Public Programs for the Seabird Institute. I have been the Program Manager for Hog Island for around 9 years. Hopefully I can answer most of your questions tonight. And I will be with you, most of you I will see at camp this summer. Pass it over to Lindsay. Oh, I can't hear you. Always technology. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Sorry about that. I said, hi, everybody. I said, you probably could recognize my voice, but you couldn't hear it. So yeah, I'm Lindsy Buckland. I'm the office coordinator for the Seabird Institute, and I've been doing the registration for Hog Island as well. And it's nice to see some of your faces. I'll be helping out with the camp doc piece as well. So if you have any questions on that, just let me know.
Thanks, Lindsay. And Lindsay and I both will be sticking around for that Q&A. So I'm going to start though with a general overview of camp. Basically, kind of run through what a typical camp week looks like. I'll talk about some of the different sessions, some of the paperwork side, and then we'll open it up. I'm hoping that we will have answered most of your questions in the presentation, but if not, then ask away. You have our undivided attention. So let's see. Can everyone, Lindsay, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see that? Perfect. So welcome everyone. The Seabird Institute was formerly known as Project Puffin, but that's basically the part of National Audubon Society that we operate within. And you're here tonight because you are signed up for one of these camp sessions. We have a full summer planned. We did have a live Q&A for our 3 teen camps, Coastal Maine Bird Studies Teens 1, 2, and Mountains to Sea. If you are a teen camper or a parent of a teen camper, I would suggest I'll be able to share that presentation with you. That would probably be more pertinent. But for all the adults out there tonight and kids who may be joining for family camp, welcome. We're going to talk about what a typical week looks like. Hopefully that helps you in your planning process as you join us this summer. So focusing specifically on adult and family camps. So when you first arrive at Hog Island Audubon Camp, you're going to come to our mainland location. We actually own 30 acres on the mainland, the Todd Wildlife Sanctuary. And you will drive down this dirt road. Basically, when you navigate to our address, it stops, the pavement stops, and you drive down the dirt road all the way down to the boat dock. Down there at that boat dock is a little loop. So you will drop off your luggage, your passengers, if you have them, and you will drive back up the hill to park. If you are not coming with a personal vehicle, then you will be coming either in our camp van or a car service. And both of those will do the same thing. Drive all the way down the hill, go down to that loop. It's a one-way loop, get dropped off, and then you'll be able to get onto the boat. So here at the boathouse, everyone will meet. You'll notice that there are a pretty steep incline ramp that goes down to the floating dock where you will get on the boat. That will fluctuate by tide. So if you can bring as much luggage as you want, but I will let you know that you'll need to bring your luggage up and down those ramps. So just think about that. You can look and see what the tides are going to be. We have a 12-foot tide. So that means at high tide, that ramp could be almost essentially flat, and at low tide, it can be pretty steep. But will be there. Our staff will be there to help you. Yeah, just be prepared for that. I like for folks to know what they're getting into. For the majority of the time that you're with us, you're going to be on Hog Island itself for the duration of your trip, with the exception of our Monhegan camps. We have spring migration Monhegan, fall migration Monhegan, raptor migration Monhegan. those 3 camps will also spend the majority of their time at Hog Island, but we will have a little excursion off the Monhegan. You'll notice here in this photo, you're going to spend most of your life around camp, which is this northern peninsula that juts off of the larger Hog Island. Depending on the camp session, you may be able to explore the larger 300-acre part of Hog Island, especially if you're coming to something like Educators Week or Family Camp. But if you're coming to our birding sessions, you will probably get your feet wet over here on the big island, but you're going to mostly stay on the peninsula. You can see our trail map. We do have trails throughout the island, and in your free time, you're always welcome to go hike the trails, and you'll be able to pick up a camp map when you arrive. It's not a very big island. It's not very confusing, but we have had people get lost. So I would definitely recommend having a trail map with you, especially because there's lots of loops that you can do, and you want to make sure you're looping the right way so you don't miss dinner time. For the most part, many of you are going to arrive on our pontoon boat. You're going to roll your luggage, or we will roll your luggage right onto the pontoon. You'll get on, you put on your life jackets, and over to Hog Island you will go. We have found that this nice flat boat is easy to walk in and off of. It can haul a lot of people and a lot of luggage, and it's a very small channel. So we don't need a really large boat for just hauling people and luggage. Or there may be times where we'll use our big 40-foot snow goose lobster boat. That will be used for a couple of camp sessions. I think Puffin Islands field ornithology, that may be it. For the most part, we won't be using this for arrival and departure. We will be using this big 40-foot boat for out in the bay excursions. We won't be floating around on that pontoon looking for puffins. We're going to be on the big boat. But that is kind of, both of these boats you can see, you can easily roll your luggage onto, easily step on and off. And then once you're on Hog Island, we have these big black carts that you put all your luggage in, and you can roll them to whatever building you may be staying in. For many of you, it's going to be one of our 2 major housing options. The top one here, the iconic kind of Queen Mary sitting right on top of the ocean, has rooms on this 2nd floor. The bottom floor is laboratory, and then it has a women's only loft up on the top. We call ourselves a camp because we are very rustic. Our accommodations are very basic. You have Wi-Fi, hot water, electricity, but it's not like a fancy hotel. I would say 90% of your time at camp, other than sleeping, you're not going to really be in your room. There's not a lot of reason to be in your room because we are going to have planned activities basically from sunrise until way past sunset. Everything is optional, but you're not going to spend much time in here. That being said, some of you are going to upgrade to like a single room. This is what a single room looks like in the porthole building. So again, very basic, 1 bed, 1 little room. All of these have shared bathrooms on each floor. So that means when you go on each floor, you go to a place where there's multiple stalls, multiple sinks, multiple showers that have a little changing room that goes into a shower. So you do have that privacy aspect. And then we have 5 rooms that have their own bathroom. That's it, 5 in the whole camp. So everything else is going to look more like these photos here. This is the women's only loft up in the top. Educators Week, Arts and Birding, some of those sessions, this gets used. It does have its own bathroom up there, which is nice. And then for family camp, whoever is our largest family gets to win the top of the building. So if you have a family of 6, you may be up there, unless your kids are really young. And then I typically don't put the really young kids up there because it is a flight of stairs. And for those 5 rooms that kind of have their own bathroom, they look essentially like the other rooms, except they're going to have a door here to a private bathroom. This is the Osprey room. It's one of those 5 upgraded, we call it upgraded rooms. It's not upgraded in any sense other than it has a private bathroom. But for the most part, most of our sessions, these are already sold out. If you have one, then you know. So after you drop your luggage, the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna come out and you're gonna be outside. You're gonna be outside most of the week. Be prepared for being in the elements. So that means in Maine, you could experience all 4 seasons in one day. Make sure that you wear layers. Have a nice jacket that you can always put on for the boat. Even if it's August, you want a jacket for the boat ride. You know, so just think about that. Think about how you can put layers on and take layers off. It can also minimize some of your packing, because if you're doing layers every day, you don't have to have as many of your top layers because you're just putting them kind of on and off throughout the day. But yeah, this will be our round circle. We'll go over kind of what it feels like to live on the island. And this building here is the fish house. That's our main lecture hall. So every night after dinner, we will be going in there for the bird checklist, talk about the schedule the next day, and then usually there is going to be a lecture or some type of presentation given in that space. Your life will revolve around this big bell. It is the heartbeat of the island. When the bell rings, it means you should be doing something. Either you're going to breakfast, or you're going to a class, or the boat is getting ready to leave. So this bell will be rung throughout your stay. And for meal times, we're going to be eating mostly out under our big tent. We get $1 million view right on the waterfront. We get to see birds. We don't have to be inside a small cramped area. And the nice thing about these tents, they're like, if you've been to an outdoor wedding, you know they have sides that you could fold down. And even if it's raining, it's rather pleasant under there. Same thing for getting your food. It's going to be served outside. So we have a separate tent and kind of serving area. For the most part, the food is done on a buffet style. So you'll go and line up when the bell rings. First bell, second bell, you'll go through the line and get your plate. And we'll have a menu board out. It'll tell you what foods you're eating. If you're one of those folks that has a restricted diet or allergy or something of that sort, there will be clear words on that menu board that tell you what you can and can't eat. It'll have ingredients in there. It may say with dairy, and if you're that lactose intolerant person, you're going to know that you should go farther down the line to get your non-dairy option. Our chefs are going to take care of you for the week. They are amazing. They make everything from scratch for the most part. It's delicious food. It's local. We work with around 20 different farms. All of our meat is locally sourced. Our eggs are locally sourced. As many fruits and vegetables as possible. If we can't get them from Maine, we try to get them from New England. Just thinking about that environmental footprint. And things like lobster, we're picking up by boat. It's right across the channel from us. And for the adult sessions, we will have on arrival night and departure night, we'll have wine with dinner. So a little special treat. But as you can see, here's someone eating their ice cream and birding. So we like to eat outside. It's really fun, and it allows us to keep connected with nature and birds while we're doing it. Your days are going to be filled with lots of field trips and workshops and different types of activities. Regardless of what session you're in, we really believe in this holistic idea that everything is connected. So we may be talking about geology and marine science and fish, but we're a bird camp. And that's because all of these things have they play together. So one thing you'll notice is that it won't always be 100% birds, because we got to have all the other parts for birds to exist. So we'll talk about climate, we'll talk about plants, and we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of fun field trips, a lot of fun hikes and walks. And for some of the camp sessions, you will even get to be in our traditional Maine dory, where you'll get rowed ashore to a different island. But as I mentioned before about the fish house, we will have a lecture in there. And basically in that fish house, it could be a little bit of a hub for camp. If you want to get inside, for instance, it's a great space to hang out. It has a library that you can borrow books from. It also has our gift shop, where all the proceeds go back to the Seabird Institute. So often people ask, do I need to have money at camp? Well, technically you don't need money at camp. All your meals are provided, snacks are provided, your housing, workshops, boat trips. You don't need to tip anybody. You don't really need money, except for, I will say the exception is the gift shop. If you want to take something home, please know that you're supporting the Seabird Institute with any purchase that you make. You can see it turns into a lecture hall. Sometimes we move all the chairs out and it turns into a family camp dance night. It really just goes all over the place, but this is a really nice teaching space. We'll use it for workshops. We'll use it for special AV presentations that we're doing. And for you, this is a space that you can come and just, if you don't want to go to bed early and your roommate does, you can come hang out in the fish house. So birding on a boat, for some of you, this may be your first foray out into kind of more pelagic-like birding. We'll be on this really nice, stable boat. The great thing about it is because the whole back end is open, you can see birds all around us. Our captain is really great about switching the boat around so people can see regardless of what side you're on. That means you don't have to move from one side of the boat to the other. You can stay seated and we'll flip the boat so you can get the good views of the puffins. Now, all of you should have received a packing list from us already. I think I provided a few different forms. We talked about how your Camp Docs digital paperwork login will be coming soon. There was an attached PDF of this packing list that you see on the screen. There was also some driving directions to camp, and of course, a couple links to different things on our website. Just a few things to note here on this. I already talked about clothing, making sure that you have layers. I often think a rain jacket is a really great layer because it's like a windbreaker, plus it's good for the rain. It's kind of the outer shell. So I would highly suggest that. Definitely having some type of hat. The sun can be really bright, especially when you're on the boat or when you're outside just on the shoreline. So having something to help with the sun reflection is really important. A lot of people ask about, oh, I notice it gets cold at night. Well, yeah, that's kind of how Maine operates. Even in August, it can be very warm during the day, but it's going to cool down significantly at night. So for your best interest, I would say, the things that are provided, linens, towels, a wool blanket, pillows. But if you're one of those people that tends to be a little cold natured, make sure you bring warm items to sleep in, wool socks, thermal underwear, something that's going to keep you warm. You could bring a sleeping bag. For those who are driving, that's a good option. For those who are flying, maybe a better option is just to bring some extra socks, some long pants, some sweatpants or something like that to sleep in. I often, when it gets really cool, sleep in my hoodie because I can cinch it. And we will have extra blankets. So if you find yourself being cold, you can always come down and typically you can ask any of the volunteers or any of the staff and they can help get you another blanket. But I think keeping your body warm, putting more layers on your body is a really great way, especially if you're coming in those early sessions in May, June. The other major essentials that you need, I do have in bold. So you need a water bottle for your field trips. When we're going on those all-day field trips, you need something to hydrate yourself. We will bring these huge coolers to fill up your bottle. So make sure you bring one. Also, a day pack. So a day pack would look like in this top photo, you see all these folks here have on a backpack. That's to keep all their gear in during the day. If you're going on an all-day van trip or all-day boat trip, you want all your stuff contained. It also helps when you're taking those layers off, you can stuff them in your backpack. So make sure you have some type of bag that you're okay carrying at all times, that you're just going to take things in and out of. You'll notice in this photo, here's the water bottle, here's the backpack, there's the hat. This is the kind of the perfect dress for this area. And down here in the sessions where you may do some deep water wading, we don't actually allow swimming at Hog Island. We don't have lifeguard on duty. We do not have the certifications because we're on the ocean to allow that, but we will do some deep water wading, especially in family camp, arts and birding, Educators Week. Those are the main ones. Most of the birding sessions, people are less inclined to be out there wading around. But in those sessions, especially, make sure that you're bringing footwear to get wet. The Maine Rocky coastline, if you look at those rocks in the photo, you notice they are covered in barnacles. That means if you're walking with open-toe sandals, you're going to have feet that get cut. We do not want that. We don't want anyone to get injured during their stay. So my biggest suggestion for footwear is something like a closed-toe shoe, like a pair of Keens, a pair of old tennis shoes that you don't want to wear anymore, that you can slip on for these special times. And let's see what else. There's a bunch of different things. You do not need to go and buy every item on this list. Some things you have to use your common sense to think, am I going to use an alarm clock? You know, if it's me, probably not. I'm going to use my cell phone. So just use a little bit of thought about which one you want. You'll know some of these items are like, oh yeah. And the ones that are in bold are the ones I'm saying you do. If you don't have a water bottle, I would suggest you buying one. You can buy one at Hog Island in the gift shop. So that is a last resort option. Medications, personal things. We do not supply shampoo, soap, and stuff like that. You should bring that with you. Snacks. We will be providing all of your meals, coffee, snacks. But, if you are one of those people with a metabolism that needs food all the time, I'm happy for you to bring your own snacks. Just remember that we may have some severe nut allergies at camp. So do not bring any with nuts in them. The last thing you want is to pull out your peanut butter snacks and then your roommate goes into some type of emergency because they're allergic to peanuts. So just be aware of that. Peanuts especially are airborne. Some people can be allergic to that if it even gets aerosols in the air. So just be aware, but we will provide food. And if you're hungry and there's not food out, you can ask any of the staff or volunteers, and there's always things like fruit and basic kind of snacks that we can just pull out of the kitchen at any moment. So if you're having a situation where you're like, oh yeah, my blood sugar is getting low, just let us know. We can give you an apple, give you a snack, give you a granola bar. We have all those at hand, but we will have like scheduled snack times for most of the sessions. All right, so at this moment, I'm going to go into a few specifics about each camp week, and I kind of clustered the camps into little categories. So I'll talk about 2 or 3 camps at a time. It won't be a complete rundown of what your week will be like, but I'm going to try to emphasize a few important aspects, especially as they pertain to trip planning. So if you're coming to spring Monhegan, fall migration in Monhegan, or raptor migration in Monhegan, that's the migration camps. We're going to be spending a night out on Monhegan Island. It's a beautiful island that's 12 miles offshore. So here's the big thing that you need. You can bring as much luggage as you want, but when we go to Monhegan, you should bring a smaller bag. So it's just an overnight bag. So think about that when you're packing. Maybe you just are throwing a duffel in your suitcase so that you take a duffel with you. You do not want to take your huge rolling suitcase with your whole life in it to Monhegan, because you're going to have to pull that luggage around and we aren't going to be there that long. So just think of an overnight bag. So just think when you're planning, when we're at the ferry, we're going to be on top of most likely the Hardy boat, though we could be on the Laura B. Regardless, we're going to be on a ferry going out to Monhegan, and they will tag your luggage with the hotel we're staying at. But don't bring your gigantic duffel bag, and don't bring 3 or 4 bags. You get 1 bag. You can have a backpack and a bag. And I would suggest that. I would suggest having a backpack that has your water bottle, your rain jacket, whatever you need to go birding that day, and then your little overnight backpack for the overnight. We won't be reunited with our luggage until probably after lunch. So you'll have the backpack for everything all morning long. Then you get reunited with your luggage and into your rooms. And then we're going to be leaving the next day. So we'll pack it back up and it'll get back on the ferry. Other than that, for the migration camps, you guys are on the kind of the front and end of our camp sessions. So again, cooler nights, warmer days, just making sure you're wearing layers. You'll notice people here have rain jackets, especially on the boat, because you can get that spray off of the ferry on the boat. You can get a little wet. I would suggest wearing a rain jacket when you're on the boat. Really good sturdy hiking shoes. You'll notice this photo of Monhegan at the bottom. You're up pretty high looking down at the village. So you want really sturdy shoes to go up and down the trails. They're rocky, they're uneven. They're smaller than a lot of the trails. For most of our birding sessions, we have more flat trails. For the migration camps, because we go to Monhegan, we do have that kind of ability of more elevation gain and more rocky paths. So just be aware of that. Make sure that you, if you have hiking sticks, bring them. I would. That's great, especially if we're going up and down kind of those rocky areas. They will allow you to go a lot farther than the trail, and they usually can pack down pretty light. We'll have sunrise up on the top of one of those high points on the island, try to catch some morning flight. And for spring migration, we'll get to see seabirds, but honestly for migration, just if we're talking about passerines, fall migration is, you can't beat it. Fall migration is pretty amazing. Spring migration is great because you get spring migrants plus seabirds. Fall migration, you get hawks and passerines, more smaller birds. And you can see, we're going to get to go out on these big cliffs, looking down, birding off the cliffs. But you'll notice this person has a great outfit on. Nice sturdy hiking boots. They have a hat on. You can tell that they have a fleece, so they have some layers. And we will have breaks, you know, so often we'll like hike out to the cliffs and we'll hang out there for a while before we hike back. So we're not just hiking. And the other good thing about Monhegan is we will split up in different directions. And usually there is a strenuous hike and a less strenuous hike. And we always kind of have that division. This just gives you a taste of what it looks like out on the cliffs that Scott went and saw there with the scope. You don't need to bring a scope. You can, but only if you think you're going to be able to haul it around. Most of our guides, there'll probably be a scope on most of your walks. Usually the trip leaders will be carrying a scope that anybody can kind of look through if we can get a good bird in there. But it's totally up to you. If you're a person that birds with a scope all the time, bring it. But if you are going to borrow a scope and you're not used to carrying it, you may find yourself finding that it's heavy and cumbersome and not, especially if you're not used to it. So you will know best if that's something that you should do. Our birding sessions, like Joria birding and field ornithology, are very similar to our migration camps, emphasis on bird watching, but we're not going to be doing that overnight on Monhegan. So the big thing with those is we're going to be staying closer afield. We're going to be going on field trips in the mainland. We're going to go in the big van. You'll notice we bring the coolers. We have all the food for you, the big water cooler. We'll go out on that big boat. We'll land on an island. Field ornithology will land on one island. Joria birding will land on a different island. We try to make all the sessions different enough that if you want, you can come back and do different ones. So we try to vary the field trips. Some of the field trips may have a little overlap because it's the perfect place for the bathroom. But for the most part, we try to keep the field trips pretty different. So these two birding sessions are very similar, but they're very different in where they're going on both on the mainland and at sea. We have a new destination we're going to land for field ornithology this year, and hopefully we'll keep landing there in the future. All right, Puffin Islands and Birds of Maine Islands. I put these two together because both of them are very much centered around seabirds. Puffin Islands is the only adult session that will land on Eastern Egg Rock. Eastern Egg Rock for pretty much the last 12, 13 years, the only people that ever landed on that island, other than researchers, were our teen campers and donors, and maybe some journalists and press and things of that sort. But for the most part, we've kept it pretty exclusive. Our teen campers landed there because we very much understand that these teenagers will then become our future researchers who are on the island in 5 or 6 years. But a few years ago, we decided to open this new camp called Puffin Islands, and we are landing adults on Egg Rock. But we're going to talk about how that works. With Birds of Maine Islands, This camp session used to be called our Road Scholar, Saving Seabirds. Road Scholar during the pandemic did not do very well. They scaled way back. And so we took our Road Scholar session and we just made it into our Audubon program. It's still a service week. It's always been a service week. So everything that we do service oriented is going right back to the islands. For Birds of Maine Islands, we usually land on Eastern Egg Rock and maybe some other seabird island like Stratton or whatever may be available, depending on the weather, tides, and all the conditions. Birds of Maine Islands spends part of the week bird watching, part of the week really supporting the Seabird Institute, painting decoys, building outhouses, landing on the island and doing restoration work, habitat work on the island. It's a really cool session. I put them together because they have this combined thing of landing on a seabird island, and it's a little tricky. And for all you adults out there that have signed up for these sessions, I want to make sure that a couple of things are clear. One, here's a picture of a bunch of teenagers walking over the rocks. Imagine yourself being that person. It's wet, it's slippery, it's rocky. You'll need a backpack to put all your gear in because you want your hands to help scramble over these rocks. And if we feel like the sea conditions are not good, we are not going to land. So we will always reserve that right, because if it's not safe, it's not worth getting anybody's life in jeopardy. This is a nice, calm, beautiful day. Look at the big snow goose out in the distance. Look how flat it looks. But this is while you're rowing onto the island. You're on a main dory and you're coming in with the waves crashing, and your responsibility is to be one of those people with the life jacket there, kind of jumping out of the boat onto the rocks. So I want you to be prepared. I don't want to scare you, but I also want you to know that you need to make sure too that you feel safe doing this. If you don't, we need to talk about that. You could stay on the boat. That's one option. We've had people do that. Go out there, doesn't look safe enough, and they stay on the boat. But I would like for you to be prepared. So having a backpack, that way your hands are free for grabbing other people and grabbing rocks. Having shoes that you don't care about getting wet. I don't want you to try to jump onto a rock. We want you to step onto a rock. And if that rock is underwater, so be it. Don't be trying to keep your feet dry. The main priority is to put your foot down on something solid. So just think about this. If you're coming to one of those sessions, is that you're wearing good footwear that you're okay with if it gets dirty. And if you're coming to Puffin Islands, we're talking about 1,000 birds flying around. So you aren't going to want to wear your nicest clothes because they're going to be pooping on you. They're going to be trying to hit you on the head. It's a loud cacophony. It's a once in a lifetime experience. It's an amazing experience to be on a seabird colony with that much wildlife around you. But just know that you need to make good choices, and we're going to make good choices too. We're going to make sure that if we don't think you can do this landing, we may be talking to you because we don't want you to get injured or hurt, because we are 7 miles offshore when we land. All right, a much more gentle island. Our family camp kids will not be going out on Egg Rock. They're going to be landing on Harbor Island. We will row ashore in the dories, but you can see it's a nice calm bay. Even on the roughest of days, this is a protected bay. And for family camp, it's kind of similar. You're going to want to have clothes that don't mind getting dirty. You're going to want everybody in the family to have a good hat of some sort to keep their head from getting burnt, or just keep the hair out of your eyes. Again, we don't allow swimming, but we do allow some deep water wading. If you see these kids over here, they're pulling the seine nets or have the dip nets. They can usually go to about their waist. Usually don't really like them going much deeper than that. This one kid over here behind the orange shirt kid's kind of crouching down, trying to get as wet as possible. Typical kid. But for the most part, yeah, make sure they have shoes on. They can't be barefoot. Because again, it's the rocky intercoastal tideland. It's not this kind of sandy beach that you see on Harbor Island. When we're doing kind of the intertidal exploration, you're going to want to have shoes on. But it's going to be a fun week. We're going to go on boat trips. We're going to go on hikes. We're going to do a lot of fun optional things that are artistic or music. movement. Very much family camp has birding involved. We're going to go out and see the puffins, but the emphasis is more on a general kind of science. So we'll focus on marine biology, insects, botany, a lot of art and journaling, and all different aspects that kind of embody nature study. And for those folks out there that don't know what family camp is, it's basically a kid 8 to 13 coming with an adult that they consider family. It could be an aunt, an uncle, grandparent, parent, family friend. It doesn't really matter as long as there is an adult and a kid together. The activities are meant to be done together. We've had everything from one grandparent with 3 grandkids to parents, grandparents, aunt and uncle, and 1 kid. So it's really designed for whatever your family is, and it's really fun. It's a great experience if you are not familiar with it. All of our camp sessions will get to probably experience the Queen Mary Lab, especially Educators Week, but family camp's going to do a lot of activities in here. Usually they do something with algae or plankton or a dissection, so they'll get to be in the lab a lot. Some of our birding sessions, these cabinets you see back here are bird specimens, so we have a huge collection, especially of birds. But let's be real, for family camp, it's all about the touch tank. Go ahead and warn you, your kids will get addicted, and next thing you know, they're wanting to sleep under it. But yeah, the touch tank is a really highlight of family camp, and we will be operating it for almost every camp of the summer, but specifically for Educators Week and family camp, people just really get into it. And it's a lot of fun because we'll put animals in there and switch them out throughout the week, and you guys can go over there and touch them and get up and close and study them. And like for the arts and birding camp, it's a great way to have a specimen that you can take in and out and sketch it and put it back in the touch tank, or take it out and sketch it. So it's a really interactive piece. So Educators Camp, I find it to be very much like family camp, but it's just teachers on vacation. My whole family are teachers. Mom, all my grandparents, aunts and uncles. I will tell you that it is a action-packed, fun, loud week. Lots of games. You'll see they're doing some intertidal activity here. And very much like family camp, we don't just focus on birds. We're going to focus on any type of nature study. We're also going to focus it back to, you can get college credits for this, continuing education credits. So there's going to be some work. But there's also what we call kind of similar family camp where you choose your workshop. So you may want to go on a hike, and then in the afternoon, you're like, no, I want to do something that doesn't require a lot of activity. Maybe I'm going to go to a workshop on bilingual preschool outdoors, so you can really mix it up. But you'll still get a lot of the same field trips that we do in our birding sessions. We'll land on Harbor Island. We'll go out and see the puffins. We'll get to hike on Hog. Same thing, small hikes, long hikes, or no hike. You kind of have options. Arts and photography. So for our photography week, it's going to run concurrently with Joria Birding. So you'll have some overlap, especially with night lectures of those same instructors. So if you're coming to photography, if you look over at the Joria Birding lineup, you'll probably have some of those instructors who cross over and do some of the night lectures for you. Same thing. The nice thing about photography, you're going to be on that big 40-foot boat, but just with your small little group of 15 people. Normally, we'll put like 30 people on the boat. 15 of you means you get a lot of space, and it means you can move around a little bit more on the boat to take photos. You'll still get to do a landing. You'll do some mainland field trips. For our arts and birding folks who are focused on sketching and painting, you're going to spend a lot of time on Hog Island. You'll have an all-day excursion out to see the puffins, and if the puffins are gone, you'll just look for eagles and scoters and all the other amazing birds in the bay. But you'll need to think about what materials you're bringing. If you're coming to arts and birding, there will be a separate packing list that is going to come from your instructor team later. I will try to get to that to you probably, since your camp is later in August, you may not get that until probably like mid-May or late May. And that'll be a specific packing list for your art supplies. Here's an artist rendition of what you may want to bring. But again, you're going to get a separate email with a separate packing list. And kind of similar for the photographers, you guys will probably get a similar, you'll get a packing list that may be a little bit different. One of our instructors is a Nikon person, one is a Canon person. So if whatever you're shooting, either one of those, you have an expert. And yeah, if you're looking for more direction for the arts folks, more will be coming. All right. I know that was a lot of information. So we're almost done. We're going to talk about a little bit of the more boring things, but essential items to come to camp. And that's a little bit of paperwork. And then we're going to open this thing up for a Q&A. So paperwork, we used to do these paperwork forms that look like this. Now we've gone completely digital. The great thing about that is if you come back to camp, you don't have to fill it all out again. You can just update your paperwork and it can get sent. It's encrypted, so it's safe. And it means that we don't have 10 years of medical records sitting in a file case somewhere on Hog Island. I think your records will be much safer in encrypted software. So a couple of things about medical paperwork. It's a lot of information. And some people say, well, why do you need to know all of this info? Well, hopefully this presentation helped kind of give you a little bit of a sense of, oh, I'm 7 miles offshore on an island. And if I fall overboard and I'm unconscious, what I could do is pull your medical records. And when the ambulance picks you up, your records are going with, instead of you being just like, you know, Jane Smith, and we don't know anything about you. We don't know what medication you're on. We don't know what pre-existing conditions you have. We don't know anything. So some of this medical information is really just for your safety. We will probably never need it, but we would have it if there was an issue. So that's kind of where it comes down to. The other thing, like allergies, we need to know those, because if you're allergic to bees, that's something we need to know, because there may be times where we encounter them. Or if you're allergic to tomatoes, well, we're going to probably go tomato free, but that's something that we wouldn't know unless you told us in this paperwork. So that's kind of where the paperwork comes from. It's, you know, our lawyers especially want us to capture this info, because we are, even though we feel so close to the mainland, we are in the ocean. And so because of that, we have to play by different rules. And because our field trips are so far off shore and we're on boats, there's all these safety considerations to make. Monhegan is 12 miles offshore. There is not a hospital or a doctor on the island. Eastern Egg Rock is 7 miles offshore. So when we're out there recreating and having a good time and birding, if something happens, that's where we need to make sure that you're taken care of for the week. All right, so that's it for paperwork. You may have more questions about it, but I just wanted to give you kind of a rundown about why we collect all that we do. And the big thing about your medical information, it gets reviewed by Lindsay and myself. All of your dietary information gets sent directly to our head chef and our sous chef. That's the only people that are looking at that. And then Eric Snyder, who is our other medical officer at Hog, he will have access to that. So it's me, Lindsay, Eric, and if it's a dietary, only if it's dietary, it will go to our head chef and sous chef. Everything else will not be shared unless we think it's something that is going to impact your ability to participate in camp. So if you're known to have seizures, for instance, that's really good information for us to know. I may share that at our staff meeting, especially if we're going on a boat trip, because it's a difference if you're having a seizure on a boat and you're falling off, or if you're just falling off a boat, you know. So we may want to know that. Or if you have a heart condition and we're on the strenuous hike up onto the cliffs of Monhegan, I may want to disclose that, but I really am not disclosing any information unless it's impacting camp specifically. And if you're coming to a session like arts and birding, probably not disclosing much because it's a low impact week, unless you have some type of allergy or you have an EpiPen on you. You know, that's the kind of thing we want to know. All right, travel options, and then we're going to open it up to Q&A. there's a lot of different ways to get to Hog Island. This is always a big question. If you have a car and you want to drive, you can do that. You remember I showed you that photo at the very beginning. We have 30 acres on the mainland. You will park your car in the designated kind of camper parking lot. It's a very safe area. You won't need your car for any of the camp sessions. And when you navigate, you should navigate directly to our address, 12 Audubon Road, Bremen, Maine.
I was just going to jump in there and just mention to everybody, make sure you lock your doors. It's a very safe area, but just err on the side of caution there. But
yeah. If you don't want to drive, you can come a couple different ways. You can come by train. It'll get you all the way to Portland, the Amtrak down Easter. You can take that from like New York on. You could fly into Portland or to Logan Airport in Boston. Regardless if you're coming by train or plane, you still need to get to Hog Island, because if you're in Portland, that's not quite all the way to us. So there's two ways to get from, let's just say Portland for simplicity. Logan or Portland has a bus called Concord Coach Lines. That bus picks up once a day right at the terminal at Logan. And the next stop is Portland. And then it hits a bunch of small towns. Same thing at the Portland airport. You can go over to the transportation center and get on the Concord coach bus. It will get into Daramuscata. That's the local town nearby us at 3:30 on Sunday. And we will pick you up for free in our vans. When you fill out the travel information, we'll know that you're coming by bus. And then on Friday, we will get you back to Daramuscata in time for the 9 o'clock bus. The other option is you can take a car service. So get to Portland, and then there is Country Coach Charters. They're, I think they're called like Country Coach Charters and Limo, but basically they're just a car service that will take you directly to the dock. They do this all summer long, and they'll give you a price quote, and then usually if they can get some more people on the same charter, then your price may lower. So that's a good option. If the Country Coach Charters is booked full, because sometimes they do get booked full, you can try the Twin Village Taxi. All of the, you can Google any of these and get the information, or you go on our website, hogisland.audubon.org. And then we have had people in a very kind of tight situation, like they missed their flight, they missed the bus, and then they got a lift. So you could do that if you have one of those apps. And I've been surprised. We've had people come, especially people who have missed flights or had delayed flights, and they just wanted to try to get to us as quick as possible. And they've had very good success coming from Boston or from Portland with a Lyft or Uber. And in the grand scheme of things, it didn't cost exorbitant amounts of money. So these are kind of all your options. By far, the cheapest option is probably either driving yourself or taking the bus. The bus is very affordable. And it's a very nice bus. I tell folks, my mom takes the bus. I'm not putting you on a Greyhound. This is a nice bus. It's just for people to come to Maine in the summer, or for people to leave Maine to go to their winter home in Palm Beach or wherever they live. So it's just kind of a way for folks to come and go out of the state. And it has a fairly easy website. But Daramuscata is going to be the stop that you want. All right. So hogisland.audubon.org. Lots of information on there. There's a frequently asked questions page. The packing list is on there. There's bird checklists and maps and different photos of all the rooms and all types of information and sample schedules and sample boat trips and more than that we could pack into this presentation. So if you have not thoroughly gone through that website, I would definitely start there. But since you have Lindsay and I here tonight, we will open up to some questions and see what we do. Before we do that, Lindsay, you've dropped some information about camp docs. Do you want to just go over that really quick, and then we'll dive into questions that people drop into the chat?
Yeah, so the information I put in about Camp Doc, that's the customer service section of their website. It's a little bit buried and hard to find, so I try to make it accessible to people. and let you know that there are some pieces that I can help you with, and I'm happy to try, but I may end up having to steer you to their customer service team, which they're excellent. They have a whole team of people that are there to help. So, and then I was just going to also mention that the remainder of the registration forms are included in that. It's called a health profile, but we do have that travel form that Eva mentioned, that's included in Camp Docs. So that's where you'll find that. But yeah, let's see what other questions we have.
How do you determine our roommates?
If you have a roommate preference, that will be your roommate. So your spouse is coming, they'll be your roommate unless you tell me you don't want them to. If you're registering together, I mean, there is a place that says, do you have a preferred roommate? So you can put that in. If you're coming solo, you will get assigned a roommate unless you paid for a single upgrade. And typically the way I do that is I take all the couples and all the friends who are staying together and I put them together first. And then I look to see how the housing lays out, and you'll get paired with someone that's similar age, usually, not always, but kind of similar age and limitations. Like if you can't do stairs, I may have you downstairs with the other lady that can't do stairs. Or, some of our sessions, we often have a lot more women than men. So I may have a whole floor that's just all women, and I just put them together. It's kind of usually somewhat arbitrary unless I think, there's some connection somehow, but usually that's by you telling me.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, but I do get folks who say, like, is there a way that I can pick my room? Not really, because the way we do the housing, it's like a big, huge puzzle. People that can't do stairs and medical conditions and couples that are together. But you can always say what your preference is. So, if you're like, I really like being in the porthole, you can say that, and I will try my best. I'm usually really good about getting people where they want to be, but it doesn't always work because it is such a puzzle. And for family camp, you guys will always be housed by family. So like if you're a family of, let's say you're a family of 4, you may get one big room of 4 beds, or you may get 2 rooms side by side or right across from each other with 2 beds and 2 beds. It's just a big puzzle piece, but you won't be sharing rooms with other families. If you're a family of 3, you could be in a room of 3, or it may be that you're in a room with 1 bed in the room with 2 beds. So I also try to use a little common sense. Like if I have like a grandparent, parent, kid, I may do that 1-2 configuration, and you can decide grandparent or parent who gets the single. Grandparents bringing kids. So every single person has to fill out their paperwork. So that means if the kid has to fill out all the paperwork, the adult has to fill out all the paperwork. If you signed up, you and your spouse, each of you have to fill out the paperwork. So for the grandson, there will be paperwork that the parent should fill out. Yeah, or the parent would fill out, the guardian, whoever the guardian is, should fill out that paperwork. Does Concord Coach drop us near the boathouse near Muscata? It drops you off in Dare Muscata, and then we pick you up with the camp van, and we drop you off right at the boat dock. Is there opportunity to upgrade your room tours? You can. Most of the upgrades are sold out, but you can send an email to Hog Island Audubon. There's also a wait list. Lindsay.
Yeah, there's a wait list, and you can reach out to me. I can touch base with you personally and let you know what options are still available, if there are some available, or I can add you to the wait list. We can chat.
Yeah, so Hog Island at audubon.org. And like we said, we only have 5 of those rooms that have their own bathroom, and then we have 6 or so singles, and then everything else is double. I will say for folks out there, we've had people who meet like their roommate and they become lifelong friends, and then they come back to camp every year together. So you never know who your roommate's going to be, or how you may find a new friend you didn't know. Joe asked about if there's a rundown on field ornithology. I kind of did that with Joy of Birding. If you missed it, this is recorded, so we will share it. There are some sample schedules online. How large is each group? Really depends. Every camp session has a different configuration. So something like photography only has 15, but it runs concurrently with Joy of Birding that has 30 or 25. So it all depends. Most of the birding sessions are like under 30. And then family camp and educators week are larger. You know, they can be 40 or 50. Yep. So most of the sessions are under 30 for the most part. But sometimes there's 2 sessions running together. So instances would be photography and Joy of Birding, Puffin Islands and Teen Week 1, Fieldo, Teen Week 2. So there's these times that we pair them, and you guys will have some things. I would say the majority of things are going to be apart, but you'll have shared meals and you'll have shared night lectures. So the boat goes to the island between 2 and 4 on the first day. That is correct. So basically that boat's just going back and forth across the channel from 2 to 4. And if you are looking at your clock and you're like, it's 4:30 and I'm not there yet, that's when you will let us know that you're running late. We can always come pick you up later, but it's best to have everyone together because at 4:30, we will be doing a orientation to the island with all the instructors. So if you come at 6 or 7, yeah, we can get you on the island, but you will have missed kind of the whole first round of everything happening at camp. It doesn't mean that you can't come to camp. It just means you're missing out. So try to be there between 2 and 4. And then camp will end on Friday. So all camps start on Sunday between 2 and 4. And then we hit the ground like straight. Orientation, dinner, into lecture, into, you know, what we're doing the next day. So, and then departure will be Friday after breakfast. Let's see, what else? I'm not.
I have a question.
I see one about photography. Not in a photography session, but I will be bringing camera gear. Can I get the photograph packing list? And it will only get sent to the photography group only because all the other sessions, it's pertained for that session specifically. But yeah, you're welcome to bring cameras to any session. I would just highly encourage that you have 2 things. Something waterproof to put it inside of, because if we're out on an island and it's a deluge of rain, you want to make sure your camera is protected. So like a dry bag or just even some trash bags or something. And then a backpack to, you know, just store it if you're getting on and off islands or even just getting in and out of the van. The camp store does take credit cards. Yep. We have Wi-Fi, we have credit cards, rustic accommodations. Gourmet food, I will say. The food is great.
Leanna's raising her hand. I just wanted to see if she wanted to ask her a question verbally.
Sure.
So I'll be driving. Is there a way, I keep thinking like I'm going to pack all this stuff in my car. Like, will I have access again to the car, or no, it's like once you're on, that's it?
Yeah, going back and forth to your car is kind of hard because you got to take a boat trip and you got to have a licensed captain. And there's plenty of staff that can drive boats, but we're not licensed captains, so we can't take you across. Our licensed captain can take you across. So we recommend that you bring it all over.
Okay.
If you're on a field trip, like if you're in a birding session, we will probably go on a field trip at some point in the week and you could grab something. If you are like, oh my gosh, I forgot my medication, of course we'll take you over. But we're not going to take you over just all the time because we got a busy schedule. And our boat captain's probably going to be busy ferrying people to whatever field trip they're going to. But yeah, always ask when you're there if it's something pertinent, but I would say pack everything you think you need.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. For spring, great question about Monhegan. So spring migration, fall migration, and raptor migration, Monhegan weeks. No wet landings. We don't need wet gear. We're gonna go on and off boats, on and off ferries. We're keeping our feet wet unless it's raining. So yeah, don't worry about wet landings, just rain.
If there are washers and dryers,
No, no
Yeah.
washers and dryers. Nope. You should bring everything you need for the week. So we have 80 beds. When we flip the camp over, we actually take all the laundry off. We don't have the capacity to wash laundry on the island. It's a rustic island. So even like all of our laundry goes off to a professional cleaners. Masks, they're not required. You should have gotten an email about the updated COVID requirements, or you can go to our website, hogisland.audubon.org, click on COVID guidelines. We updated them in the spring. Basically, there's one exception. You will need masks if you're inside of our vans, and that's public transportation. That's the recommendation from the CDC, so we're keeping it. But you do not, all masks are optional. You can wear them if you like. I certainly will wear mine at times, when, especially those first couple of days when you guys get there, but you don't have to wear them. They are required in the vans. So, and if you forget one, we'll have them in the vans to give them to you before you get in. Ticks, yeah, there's definitely ticks in Maine. We will talk about them at orientation. We'll give you photos of them. But yeah, ticks are all over New England, and certainly on Maine, and certainly on Hog Island, because we got lots of mammals like deer and voles and everything else that has ticks. So be tick checks every day. That's what you do.
That's the most pertinent question
Hey,
today.
do you guys, this is a silly question because I'm gonna say it's probably no, but are the rooms heated?
No,
Okay, gonna get those wool socks then.
yep. No heat, no AC.
All right, thank you.
yeah.
Well, I'm not sure I need the AC.
Well, in August and
Some might.
July, some people
Yeah.
get warm. But then I tell them just open the window at night and it'll cool it down.
Got you.
But
And
yeah, it
on
can
the
get warm.
spring, so I'm coming for the spring migration. How
Mhm.
many people are in that group?
Less than 30.
Okay,
Yeah, all the birding sessions are less than 30.
great, thank you.
Is it too late to add a family member guest? If it's family camp, no, we have openings in both family camp weeks. And if it's for our other sessions, some sessions are sold out. So you can look on the website if it's sold out. If it's not sold out, then you can add another person. How about the mosquitoes? We are very fortunate on Hog Island. Remember that photo where it's a peninsula? So the breeze just blows across. The only exception is like if you go deep into the woods, the mosquitoes can get bad. I will definitely think that, and if we do some mainland trips, you know, mosquitoes could be bad in some of those forested areas. It'll just depend on how much it's rained and how susceptible you are to mosquitoes. They never bite me. I'm a lucky person. Some people, they bite way more and I don't even realize it. So I would just say, yeah, we always have bug spray and we always have sunscreen in all of our first aid backpacks. And there's always a first aid backpack with you for every field trip and every boat trip. So if you find yourself in a situation where you need sunscreen or bug spray, just ask. All your instructors will have access to it. Will ice be available if you need an ice pack? Yeah, we have a very, very elaborate first aid area. We have 2 medical officers, myself and Eric Snyder. All of our staff can perform first aid. And if you need an ice pack, we can help you out. Yep, but we don't have like an ice cooler for just everybody to use. We use it for first aid. What's your favorite meal that camp serves? Oh, that's a hard one. Lindsay, you got a favorite meal?
Man, she did some really interesting things with pumpkin in the fall sessions. That just blew my mind. Alice is amazing.
Yeah, we like to do a lot of seasonality
Chowder.
food. I'm always thinking of like the last one I ate that just blew my mind, which was like this stuffed, it was like this walnut stuffed squash.
The
It
acorn
was
squash.
beautiful and it was so
Yeah.
delicious. I don't know how she did it.
She just, yeah, she makes
yeah.
you want to go vegan.
I also really like the stir fry. I also really like taco night. I also really love pancakes.
Makes great muffins.
Oh, the
Can't
honey
go wrong.
biscuits. Never
The honey
mind.
biscuits.
It's
Oh,
the
yeah.
honey biscuits. They're huge. They're
Yeah.
delicious. The thing is though, like the menu changes every week. So if you come in May, the food will be totally different than if you come in July because it's seasonally made.
Yeah, it usually a cream puffin makes its way on the menu.
Yeah.
If you
all
go
the
online,
Disney-
if you go online to a particular camp, will you see a more detailed schedule?
Not a step-by-step schedule, and you will not be given a schedule when you arrive at camp. That's because everything is completely dependent on weather, tides, and boat conditions.
Okay,
So if we gave you a schedule on Sunday night, we would probably throw it in the trash and start over on Monday. So what we will do is we will provide you an updated schedule every night after dinner.
okay,
Because we have found that we can't plan. And we've also said, sometimes we've given someone a schedule and they're like, we didn't do this one little workshop. And we're like, yeah, because we did like 3 other things that were amazing. So we're like, it's hard to stay on a schedule, especially because if the boat conditions are bad, we may need to pivot and do something totally different. Or if we find that it's raining, we're going to do, we'll pivot to a workshop, or we'll do a different hike that's going to be less wet. So yeah, there's not like a step-by-step schedule. We do have a schedule, but it's in flux. But there is a set schedule in so much that breakfast, lunch, and dinner are always the same times, loosely like 7:30, noon, and 6.
Mhm.
Always a lecture after dinner, always an early bird walk like at 6 at the beginning of the week. Usually we don't do them at the end of the week because everyone's exhausted. And then it's either an all-day field trip or it's workshops and hikes, some combination. All-day
Okay,
field trips
good.
are either all day on the boat or all day on the van. But yeah, what those are will just change.
Okay, that's fine, that's good.
Concord Coach bus line. So if you're coming into Boston, picks up once a day, takes you straight up to Maine. Get on the bus, you go straight back to Logan Airport, drops you at the terminal. You're coming into Portland, you have to hop over to the transportation center. It's like 1 mile away or something. So you have to shuttle over there, then get on the bus and come north. Same thing when you get back to the transportation center, which is right off of the interstate, you got to shuttle back over to the Portland Jetport.
And then our vans will pick you up
Yep.
from the bus stop and bring you right to the dock. So that was a question earlier that kind of got.
There'll be a fan in every room. So there's a big fan that you could pop into your window. Because for those who are worried about getting cold, it will also be warm. So you remember all 4 seasons in one day. So yeah, there's a fan. You can bring a small fan if you want, but we will have like a box fan, available. The recording will be shared. We'll put it up on our website and then we'll email it out to everyone. So if you missed the first part of this, feel free to rewatch it, or I'll probably have it up later this week. I'll get it formatted, get it online tomorrow. Celebrating 50 years of Project Puffin? Nah, we're not doing that. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun this summer. We are celebrating 50 years of bringing puffins back to the Maine coast. The pinnacle point of seabird restoration in the world. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of fun activities. And if you are coming to Maine, there's more activities than just coming to camp. There's art showing up in Belfast. That's just an immersive experience, like being on Eastern Egg Rock at Waterfall Arts. There are gonna be some Sips and Seabirds events where you paint decoys. You can go up to Rockland, to the Project Puffin Visitor Center. We have special 50th commemorative t-shirts with puffins on them. But yeah, we're going to be celebrating puffins hard this summer. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, we're planning to do some live events, some virtual events you can tune into. So totally going to do a whole salute to 50 years of puffin conservation and seabird conservation, because now we're protecting terns and albatrosses and shorebirds, you name it. Any other questions?
Well done.
And there are some sample schedules out there, and so you can go to those to get kind of a rough draft. There are some bird checklists you can look at. You can go to eBird, you can look at Hog Island at the hotspot, what birds are being seen. You can look at the weather conditions before you pack. I highly suggest looking at that 10-day forecast, that 5-day forecast, and then the weather will totally change. We have found that we wait till Sunday to finalize our schedule. Sunday morning is when we take the schedule and say, I think we're going with this, because the weather will just change so much. The other thing about Hog Island, we talked about mosquitoes not being an issue. We also don't really get back black flies, thank goodness. We do have ticks. You'd have to worry about ticks, but mosquitoes and black flies, not as much of a concern, except for those early morning bird walks. And we do have bug spray, and it does work. And then like boat trips and stuff, we don't get mosquitoes on that. So that's nice. The other good thing about being on an island is that it could be pouring rain on the mainland and beautiful on Hog Island, because something about the channel, it like buffers the weather. So yeah, and we always get rain in Maine. If you've been up here, you know that you're walking on moss line, fern line trails. You can't have that unless there's rain. We get sad when there's no rain, because everything starts looking like it shouldn't. It should be lush and verdant here in Maine. So I would always say, be prepared with gear for rain, regardless of what time of year, with maybe the exception of August. August is our driest month, but we can still get a rain day. Yeah. All right. Thank you all. Really appreciate you coming out tonight. We love hearing from you. Hopefully this was helpful, and we'll share this recording soon. And we'll see you on the island.